Hi, I'm Hannah. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I normally talk about academia and being in higher education. I'm also new to YouTube. However, I'm just getting started, but I do feel like this warrants a specific video. Last week, the end of last week, the Department of Education announced that it is reclassifying many professional degree programs, specifically graduate degree programs, from being a professional degree to a non-professional degree. And the degree programs that were captured by this are degrees that are in medical fields like audiologists, physical therapists, family therapists somehow were included, nursing graduate degree programs were included, education's included, so I'm in this somehow. And there is not a lot of rhyme or reason to this other than the additional information that this somehow relates to the projection that these fields don't produce graduates who repay their student loans. So there's this paternalistic sort of solution. We are going to cap how much funding goes to these non-professional degree programs to prevent people who aren't going to make money from being able to go into debt that they can't pay back, because we don't legally allow you to discharge a bankruptcy for student loans. So the system is built against students, and we know that. The system disproportionately affects non-white, people of color, people with disabilities, LGBTQ people, rural programs. There are so many people who are going to be affected by this theoretical change if it were to happen. I'll get more into that in a second. Who are going into underfunded populations that are serving rural populations, serving communities that don't have enough resources to start with. And so now degree programs that would normally be recruiting and trying to find people who are interested in these types of communities and this type of service, they're going to be pushed to they're going to be hard pressed to find folks. They're going to be hard pressed to find folks for several reasons. One, it's going to scare people. Folks that are considering going to graduate school may not go to graduate school now, because there is a possibility that you could start your program and all of a sudden your funding dries up, or you're not able to take on student loan debt, or some other mechanism that is triggered by this kind of generic broad change is going to create a lasting impact in other industries. I can imagine that the private loan market is frothing at the mouth right now at the ability to give you a loan. You want to go to graduate school? You can consider a private loan. I would never do that personally, but the current administration seems to be just fine with selling off any public good to a private vendor, but that's okay. Anyway, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. This is an issue for graduate students. Graduate students who are potentially going to be in graduate school in the next few years. Just because this came out last week does not mean that they have operationalized this. Start there. Operationalizing changes like this take time, and they take a lot of energy. Look at how much this current Department of Education is struggling to offload K-12 programs to other departments that already exist in the federal government. So they can't barely do what they're trying to do right now that they've been saying they want to do for the past 30 years. They can't get their butts together to do it. So making another broad change like this, that's going to impact so many industries, it's going to impact not only institutions, but it's going to impact nonprofits, unions. There are legal firms that I'm sure are frothing at the mouth right now at being able to sue the federal government for this. We could get into that. That's a whole other thing. But if you're in a professional program like me, I am at the end of my coursework. I'm about to take my prelim or comp exams, whatever your program calls them. And I'm moving into my dissertation full time. So I work in higher education. I am a doctoral student in higher education. And this 1,000% would affect me if it happens. And I'm not alone. I know I'm not alone, nowhere close to it. So for me, I'm not panicking. I'm not panicking because these people have been trying to do this for decades, and this is where we're at. So I don't think that they're motivated sufficiently to actually do it. It's a great talking point, though, leading into midterm elections, because it gets us talking about student loans and education instead of whatever other economic impact of what other decision they're making elsewhere in the government. Anyway, I am getting so off course in this video. I'm not panicking. I don't think you should panic for several reasons. One, universities are going to have to find ways to fund graduate students. They need graduate students. They need them to teach undergraduate classes. They need them to be research assistants for their faculty because they can't provide other means to support faculty to be able to go do research. So they're going to have to figure something out. Either it's going to be internal funding or they're going to find grants for them. Now, grant money has notoriously been dry. There have been so many grants that have been undercut. People have lost their jobs. Like, that's just not a great option. So they may be looking to donors for more money. There could be more scholarships, things that have historically just not been available. There may be a new surge, and there may be an alumni surge because alumni understand the value of higher education, perhaps more so than people in the federal government do. And so they may be more willing to fund scholarships for graduate students moving forward. I think that we don't know what's going to happen, but the universities and institutions of higher education in this country are going to be looking at the legal requirements of what the Department of Ed's doing. And then there's the economic impact of it. I don't think that as a graduate student, I'm going to worry too much about this until I see how it shakes out with my school. I don't worry too much about what the Department of Ed says they're going to do right now anyway, because we just came out of an election and we're going into another one. And that means that a lot of what they're doing right now is just political theater. And it has absolutely nothing to do with education or what's good for the population. I don't normally, granted, this is like my 6th video or something, but I don't normally talk about politics a whole lot. I will always go hard when it comes to education. Not only because my parents were teachers, not only because I'm in education in multiple varieties, not only because I have kids in a public K-12 system, not only for that stuff, but because for a nation state to survive, they need an educated population. You need a workforce that continues to support the economy. And we can train AI models all day long to do ridiculous stuff, the way that LinkedIn seems to think that every job now is an AI training opportunity, but whatever. But you actually do need to have a trained workforce. You need an educated workforce. That doesn't mean they all need the same level of education. That doesn't mean that they all have to have the same interests. None of that is real. Anyone who talks about that is just trying to get you upset. The actual nuts and bolts of this are that we need educated people. Educated people make for a good citizenry. And I will always go hard for that. 100%. And I also just think that people right now in this administration just love manipulating the narrative to especially piss off folks that were just kind of out here doing their thing. Like, I'm a researcher. I'm in education research. You don't know anything about what I'm doing, most likely, and that's fine. But like, the impact of research that I do, which could carry into K through 12 settings, higher ed settings, is not something that warrants this level of scrutiny. And the idea that your value pertains to your student loans, and that cap somehow has some impact on the borrower's ability to pay it back completely absolves the student loan industrial complex of its responsibility to manage those loans appropriately. So I think that the absurdity of this is that predatory student loans and predatory lending is somehow not the conversation because we've turned it into these degree programs. But let's not forget that the true evil entity in this is the loan servicers and extremely unethical loan practices. And I don't think anyone goes into school thinking that they're not going to be able to pay back their loans. And if you find some random person on TikTok who said that one time and you want to post it in my comments and be like that about it and like whatever, floats your boat, kid. But I do think that defaulting on student loans has a lot more to do with the economy, and it has a lot more to do with the state of employment in the nation, and it has even more to do with the structure of those loans that is extremely predatory, extremely unethical, and absolutely should be the focus of this conversation instead of this, oh, don't look over here at these degree programs. Like, don't look at the man behind the curtain. We see it for what it is. Anyway, this is a long video. I wasn't intending on it, but I do think that we should not panic and you should stay in your program. If you're wanting to go to grad school, pursue that. Continue on. What they're talking about now and what it looks like when they operationalize, if they operationalize, very different realities. So don't get scared. Don't get off course because of these announcements and these comments about graduate programs in higher education. These aren't folks that you would take advice from normally, so don't take advice from them now. And thanks for dropping by my channel. I will probably be posting more about this as it continues because this is irritating that we have to talk about this now. I'd rather talk about cognitive load theory and skill training, but you know, we gotta do what we gotta do, and apparently we gotta talk about this. So thanks for dropping by. If you want me to talk about anything else, feel free to let me know. Happy to look into whatever you think I should talk about, and you know, go out and just do the best you can, because that's all any of us can do. So thank you, have a good night, and I'll see you next time.